Get me the fuck out of here, man. You fucking took my plea back, man. Get me the fuck out of here, man. Get me out of here. Get me out of here, man. Get me out of here, man. Get me the fuck out of here. No, man, get me out of here. Get me out of here, man. What the fuck you mean, nigga? Get me the fuck out of here. Man, get me the fuck out of here, man. Let me get my leg. Get me out of here, man.
Your Honor, we are present in the state of Ohio versus Dennis Welp in case number 25 CR 206. The defendant is in court represented by counsel. We were last here on May 14th where the defendant pled guilty to count 5 and count 6, both being sexual battery felonies of the 3rd degree. At that time, the court referred the defendant for a pre-sentence report and victim impact statement. Those reports have been completed and the state is prepared to proceed with sentencing.
Mr. Watson.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court. I'm going to be brief. This was a heinous crime, Judge. This was horrible in a lot of ways, but most importantly, because this was a minor child who almost assuredly didn't fully understand what was going on with somebody whom was entrusted to love her and to protect her. However, Your Honor, this is not indicative of who Mr. Welp is as a person. Yes, he has a record. Yes, he has been to prison, but it's mainly in the past been for drug offenses, I believe some theft offenses, nothing of this magnitude. On this day, and this is not an excuse, Judge, for his behavior, but on this day, Mr. Welp was drinking a lot, was highly...
Courtrooms are places where justice, tension, and human emotion collide. Behind the doors, lives are changed in an instant. Today, we watch a high-stakes case unfold, where the gravity of past choices meets the unforgiving scrutiny of the law. Every look, every word, every pause matters. Observers sit silently, knowing that what happens here will ripple far beyond the courtroom walls. From legal strategy to raw emotion, this is where accountability, remorse, and confrontation all meet under the weight of justice.
Spending a lot of time in jail coming up. I know there's discretion with the plea with how much time that equates to. This court has a lot of discretion with that. Earlier in chambers, the state and I presented to the court a joint recommendation for 8 years. I'm going to respectfully ask the court to consider imposing that sentence because I believe Mr. Welp is remorseful. I believe that this is not who he is as a person, and I'm hoping when his time is up and he gets out, which by the way, he's going to be reporting as a sex offender for the rest of his life, so he's going to be under a microscope, he's going to be monitored for the rest of his life. But I'm hoping that he'll be able to piece things together, make amends with at least part of his family. I don't know if he can ever make full amends with everybody or not. And you're going to hear from him in just a minute, Your Honor. But again, I don't think this is who he is as a person, and I'm going to respectfully ask the court to consider adopting the joint recommendation. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, before I hear from Mr. Welk, I'm going to read the explanation of duties to register as a sex offender and ask for him to sign it, acknowledging that he was informed of these terms. This is...
Defendant enters, weighed down not just by the charges, but by the consequences they bring. Courtrooms reveal layers of a person's history, decisions, regrets, and patterns of behavior that have led to this moment. Observers study posture, tone, and gestures, reading between every line. Here, emotion battles composure. The law demands facts. The human heart struggles with guilt. And for those watching, it's a stark reminder. No one is immune to the consequences of their actions, and every choice carries weight.
Residency within 3 days of coming into that county, or if temporarily domiciled for more than 3 days. You are also required to register in person with the sheriff of the county in which you establish a place of education immediately upon coming into that county. If you establish a place of education in another state but maintain a residence or temporary domicile here, you are also required to register in person with the sheriff or other appropriate official in that other state immediately upon coming into that state. You are also required to register in person with the sheriff of the county in which you establish a place of employment if you have been employed for more than 3 days or for an aggregate of 14 days in a calendar year. If you establish a place of employment in another state but maintain a residence or temporary domicile here, you are also required to register in person with that sheriff or other appropriate official in that other state if you have been employed for more than 3 days or for an aggregate of 14 days in a calendar year. Employment includes volunteer services. You are required to provide to the sheriff temporary lodging information, including address and length of stay, if your absence will be for 7 days or more. After the date of initial registration, you are required to periodically verify your residence address, place of employment, and/or place of education in person at the county sheriff's office no earlier than 10 days prior to your verification date. If you change residence, address, place of employment, and/or place of education, you shall provide written notice of that change to the sheriff with whom you have most...
As proceedings continue, legal representatives meticulously present evidence, weaving a narrative for the judge to consider. This isn't just paperwork. It's a timeline of actions, decisions, and impacts. Every piece of testimony, every report adds pressure to an already tense room. Observers are reminded that justice is both procedural and human, measured against a framework of law, but experienced through the reactions of those involved. In these moments, the gravity of responsibility is palpable, and the courtroom becomes a stage where truth and accountability collide.
Prior to travel, failure to do so may subject you to a criminal prosecution. You shall provide written notice within 3 days of any change in vehicle information, email addresses, internet identifiers, or telephone numbers registered to or used by you to the sheriff with whom you have most recently registered. You are required to comply with all the above described requirements for your lifetime with in-person verification every 90 days. Since your expected residence address as stated above is located in Lake County, you shall register in person no later than 3 days after release with the county sheriff's office at 104 East Erie Street, Painesville. Failure to register, failure to verify residence at the specified times, or failure to provide notice of change in residence address or other required information as described above will result in a criminal prosecution. Mr. Watson, if you would present this to Mr. Welk for his acknowledgement and signature.
I'd like to apologize to the victim in this case. I'm not going to use alcohol or drugs as an excuse for anything. However, alcohol was a main factor in this case. But I take full responsibility for my actions because I chose to make the irresponsible decision consuming too much alcohol than I could handle, causing poor, regretful choices leading to my incarceration. I've read the police reports and feel ashamed, embarrassed, and hurt because that's not the person I am. And I wouldn't be standing here today if I would have just been more responsible.
Courtrooms are rarely just about the accused. They hold the voices of those affected. Families sit quietly, processing pain and betrayal, hoping justice balances the scales. Witnesses' words linger in the air, heavy with emotion and truth. Every reaction, a nod, a pause, a tear, reveals a personal cost of crime. For viewers, these moments provide perspective. Crimes are never isolated incidents. The impact extends to those innocent bystanders whose lives will be shaped by the choices of one individual.
Okay. Over this, wishing I could take it all back. I just hope she can grow up in life and leave this in the past, and that it doesn't affect her future. Again, I'm sorry to everyone I caused pain to in this case.
One thing that the defendant said today in court, and even in his pre-sentence report, that stood out to me is that he was supposed to be a loving and caring father. And I couldn't agree more with that. He should have been someone that the victim could trust and rely on for protection and guidance. And instead, he used his role as a parental figure to manipulate her, exploit her, and violate her. When this happened, the victim was just 13 years old, 13 years and 8 months to be exact. And as much as the defendant wants to talk about the other children in his life, when the defendant committed this offense, it was done in his home, in her home, with his other children present. Not only that, his 4-year-old Sarah and the 7-year-old Ben actually observed the defendant engaging in the kissing and the touching of the victim's erogenous zones. Later, when the defendant went into the victim's bedroom to engage in the sexual conduct, A 1-year-old was sleeping in the pack and play next to her, and there was a 3-year-old in the room who was awake.
The moments before sentencing are the pinnacle of courtroom tension. Silence stretches across the room as the judge reviews details, weighing remorse against risk, history against rehabilitation. Every breath feels amplified, every glance charged with anticipation. Observers brace themselves, knowing the next words will alter lives irrevocably. It is in these seconds that the human psyche is tested. The accused confronts consequences, families hope for closure, and the courtroom bears witness to the delicate, dramatic balance between justice and mercy.
He spoke of wanting to attend counseling together. He emphasized they were a team and told her he loved her, despite being her abuser, despite doing what he did here. And during several of these recorded calls, you can hear the victim crying, further illustrating just the ongoing emotional harm caused by the defendant and his conduct. This behavior demonstrates his continued disregard for the well-being of the victim, his family, and his ongoing efforts to control her and manipulate her. The defendant today in court said he's remorseful, but in the pre-sentence report, he didn't believe he did anything wrong, and he wants to take this to trial. So I'm not sure what this court can believe. He has a lengthy criminal history, including 4 prior prison numbers and 5 felony cases. And all of this, I think, supports the need for a significant term of incarceration, and respectfully ask this court to impose a jointly agreed sentence of 8 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Why did you call her after you were in jail?
Because I was told by the detective I was allowed to.
Okay.
I didn't call her, I called my wife and she answered the phone.
All right. And what contact did you have with her about retracting her statement or modifying her statement?
It wasn't retracting, we talked about counseling going to...
Tension can erupt in unpredictable ways. When authority, consequences, and emotion collide, human reactions often break the calm surface. An outburst, a sudden movement, a shout. These moments reveal raw vulnerability, frustration, and fear. For law enforcement and court personnel, training meets instinct, maintaining control while ensuring safety. For viewers, these bursts of emotion create the visceral connection, illustrating the high stakes of accountability. It's a reminder, the law is not abstract. It is enforced in real time with real consequences.
And that you shouldn't have been talking to her, about anything. So you've in your statement, you say you apologize to her. Then in the pre-sentence report, you talk about how you don't believe you did everything you're accused of doing and wanted to take this to trial. What's that?
I don't remember exactly what I said, Your Honor, but what I was saying was I don't have recollection of what happened the night of. So I wasn't admitting to, I don't know what happened.
Did you or did and I gotta tell you, it doesn't get much worse than this kind of note. Record the sentence of prison on a burglary, released on judicial release and then returned to prison. Released January 7th of 13. You went back to prison on another, got out in August. Prison on an attempted burglary and entering June 23 of 16 through August 5 of 8. A whole bunch of, that last prison sentence and where you are today. So got a lifetime of criminal activity, but none worse than what has occurred here. So I've reviewed the pre-sentence report, the victim impact statement, considered what you have said, what counsel has said. I've also considered that they've made a joint recommendation, 96 months on count, and I've considered all the provisions in 29, 29, 11, 29, 29, 12, 13. Consideration of all that on count 5, I'm going to sentence you to a term of 60 months.
After the drama, reflection sets in. Courts are not only a place of punishment, but also a mirror for personal responsibility. The choices that led here are examined. The effects on victims and families cannot be ignored, and the consequences will shape lives for years to come. Observers are left to consider the interplay of remorse, rehabilitation, and the justice system. This is a human side of law, complex, uncomfortable, and compelling, where emotion meets procedure and society seeks closure, fairness, and truth.